What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Paint Society, the channel where the learning doesn't stop when the video ends. Today, we're ready to attack the trunk lid on our project Honda Civic. But first, let me get you caught up of what it takes to get to this point. Now, we started off with a trunk lid that had no clear coat on it at all, so we sanded that all down with a 180 grit, and then we used Eastwood's OptiFlow epoxy primer to seal in any of that metal and give us a good substrate for our body work. We filled in minor dents here and there and sanded them down, and we used the OptiFlow roll-on system for the urethane. We allowed that to dry, and then we sanded that down with a 400 grit. Now from this point, the car just sat for a little while, so when we were ready to take it back on, we used Super Clean's foaming action cleaner to go ahead and get all that dirt out of all the crevices and any contaminants that we might have had on the surface. We cleaned it up and we started back over with 400 grit on the primered areas, and then we moved to a 600 grit on top. From that point, we went over to our clear coat area that was on the back side of the trunk, and we just sanded that with a 600 grit. At this point, we were ready for Bulldog's Prep and Clean, which we used with a gray scuff pad to go ahead and clean out any areas that we might have missed. We went ahead and let that dry up pretty good, and you can see it dries really dull once it's scuffed up. We pulled the car back into our garage and we got ready to mask it. We masked up our full trunk by back masking it, and then we covered it all up with plastic. Once it was covered up with plastic, we found that we had a couple areas that were down to metal, so we used some self-etching primer to seal up those spots. A little K800 grit sandpaper to smooth out the rough edges, some water-based cleaner to clean it up from any fingerprints, followed by our solvent-based cleaner. And once we were all clean, that's exactly where we are right now in our project. Now today, we're gonna be using our Turbine system to lay down some paint on this panel. Now up close, this is what the panel looks like. And although it does have different layers here and there, it is completely leveled out and it's ready for paint. Now with trying to keep costs down, we're not going to be using any sealer, although I strongly recommend it. With the different layers here, a sealer will go ahead and give us a nice even substrate for our paint to lay on. That's why we went ahead and used our self-etching primer anywhere where we had minor body filler or a burn through to metal. So today we're going to be using the Apollo Maximizer 2000, another turbine that we have that should do the job very nice. So with all turbines, they come with a cost, and understanding that a turbine sometimes is the same cost as a 60 to 80 gallon compressor and to have it plumbed is quite understandable. Now, the good thing about a turbine is you can plug it into 120, it's virtually quiet, and the low amount of overspray is amazing. Plus the fact you can bring it from wherever you want. So that's something that you're gonna have to decide on your own and weigh out the positives and the negatives. As for me, I'm ready to spray that trunk, so let's get hooked up and spray some base coat. So we have roughly about 6 ounces of Nighthawk Black Pearl in our PPS pressurized cup. And I'll put the link in the description so you can get one of these, and it just keeps things much cleaner. And that cup does come with a tube, and that tube will connect right into the air feed over here. And it's just that simple. The PPS adapter snaps in, and you're good to go. So we're just gonna do a test panel first. Now the cool thing about this one, it's got a digital readout display, and we're gonna keep it around 5.0, 5.5, right around there. So we're gonna start by only attacking really the top part, getting coverage. I have a tack rag, and I'll just go over the surface to get any sort of lint that's still on the panel. And we'll leave it just there. Good 10 minutes, we'll check up on it, and it should be completely flashed off. That means it's stole. We're gonna go ahead and lay on that second coat now. It's been about 10 minutes. So the second coat we're gonna carry on the top, and then we'll do the whole bottom area here. So you might notice or might not notice that when I pull the trigger, I'm pulling it just ever so slightly. Watch, just like that. I'm not pulling it all the way back. I'm letting out just enough paint and air that I want, and I'm watching the paint go on, and I'm watching what it's doing, and I'm adapting from that point. Another good 10 minutes, it's covering really well, and then probably one more coat and we'll be good to go. Our base coat has been drying for a good 10 minutes so far, and I'm checking over with the light, and I'm quite pleased that it looks pretty good. There's no patchiness, and it looks like we're ready to spray. Now, let's say that you had some bumps along the way. You can sand this with like a 1800 grit and then reapply one more coat. You don't need to sand base. If you have it coming out smooth, then you're good to go. Let's go over to the table, and I'll show you how to mix up clear coat without a mixing ratio cup. All right, so we saw that the base is all ready. Now we're gonna go ahead and shoot our clear. Now, one of the reasons why I like the Tamco clear, it's a 30-minute clear. It gets out of dust real quick, so we don't have to worry about things falling in it, and we can get the car done. So if you don't have a mixing cup, I'm gonna show you how this mixes up. This is 4 to 1, so essentially 4 parts to 1. So if we had 4 cups full of clear here, okay, we would do 1 cup hardener, okay? So some of you don't have the cups. Well, this is an easy way to do it. We're gonna go a little bit longer here. We have a line here. We're gonna fill this up 4 times and then pour it into our bigger cup here, or our other cup, and then we're gonna do 1 part of hardener. So it'll be 4 parts of clear to 1 part hardener. I'm gonna show you that right now. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we'll go 1 part slow productive hardener. And we'll pop it in. Now this is around 13 ounces. Now the reason why I didn't do line is because the cup gets a little bit wider and bigger as it gets to the top, and that can throw off your ratio. So we'll go ahead and mix this up and we'll start spraying. Now we want to allow that base to dry. We'll continue to dry for a good 30 minutes before we lay the clear down. So it's been about 30 or 40 minutes, and the paint is so smooth. Look how easy the tack rag glides over the panel. It's a good indication that we're gonna have a nice finish. Now with black, it might look a little scratchy. That's because we didn't use a sealer. You're lucky with black though, it will cover. Any other color, like a metallic or something, you're gonna have those metallics fall into those scratches and you're gonna see it. First coat, I'm not too concerned with getting it on too wet. Just wanna get the paint on there. Second coat will make it a little bit more shiny. You know, it looks pretty good. We got some dry spray right in this area. I need to do a better job of putting a little bit more paint on there. But for that second coat, we can go on a little bit slower. I'm gonna take that fan and dial it in from wide to a little bit more narrow so I can get the paint onto the panel instead of too wide of a fan. So we're ready to go. This only has a 2 to 5 minute flash time. We're ready to hit it up right now. Wow, After 25 minutes, it is dry. Still a little bit more to make sure that we don't mess with the paint too much when we unmask. We'll let it sit for about a good half hour after this. But I gotta say, using that 0.8 tip, it really helps because we can build it on without overloading the clear. And well, less clear means no pinching, no dieback. We remember when I used a 1.3 and I learned that we should be using a 0.8 tip for spraying our clear coats and base coats. In my opinion, it works really, really well. Take a look at the finish. It is really nice. Some speckled dust throughout, which is not a big deal. Now we have this little guy right here, and I did see him when we were painting and I went right over him. Do not try to pick it out. It is a piece of lint that we can buff out no problem once it cures. And with that said, we'll continue to allow it to dry for a good 30 minutes. We'll unmask it, and then we'll show you some of the wet sanding and buffing stage if you want it to be 100% perfect. Now our trunk panel did die back just a little bit, and that's going to be due to user error. And well, we're not spraying in a paint booth, so we don't have that constant airflow. Now what dieback or pinching would be is when the surface kind of tightens up a little bit because it just didn't cure the way it was supposed to. Now we'll be looking for ways to try to get our home garage to work better with our paint, whether that's trying different reducers or hardeners built into the clear to see what works best for us, or it might be as easy as just keeping a fan on when we're all done. And here's what we mean by pinching or dieback. We can see the clear shrunk just a little bit and it's revealed a little bit of bumpiness or a little bit of texture. So to get rid of that texture, I'm just gonna use water with no soap in it and our K series K2000 with our block. And after 2000, this is what it's gonna look like. We've sanded it down, and as you can see, I left a little bit of texture. We wanna make sure if we're trying to replace factory finishes that there is still a little texture in there. That's why we like to use 2000. Now, if you're going for show car, you can knock it down with 1500, 2000, but I don't like to go too flat, or else it just doesn't look right on a regular car. And to refine that scratch, we're going to be using a 3000 grit next. This is going to refine the 2000 and make it a little bit easier to buff. After our 3000 grit, this is what it will look like. It'll have somewhat of a little bit of a shine. So now we're gonna follow it up with our compound and polishing stage. And to be doing that, we're gonna try out this single polishing system by CSI. It's a waterborne technology polish, so it should clean up really, really nice. To do it, we have a backing pad that will attach to our Milwaukee rotary buffer, followed by our wool pad for the compounding stage, and to finish it off, we'll be using a foam pad. Now, in order to get these scratches out, you're gonna need to use a rotary buffer. It'll be near impossible to do it just by hand. And to do that, we'll be using this rotary Milwaukee buffer. It has what it takes to remove those scratches, and we'll be around a 1200 RPM range. We'll simply just screw on our backing pad, then pull on our wool pad. The great thing about a water-based or waterborne cleaner is it cleans up with water, and that's exactly what we're doing right now. A damp towel, it doesn't really get stuck on there. You can just kind of wipe it off. nice and easy. And I gotta say, I am very impressed with this system. So we got it all buffed, and what's next is just to assemble the trunk, and let's check it out. Wow, and what an amazing finish we achieved in our own home garage. I gotta tell you, painting something at home rather than painting something at work and having a good finish feels so much better to be able to do it right here in our own home garage. Now, no project will ever be perfect. Your paint will never lay out beautifully. You will never have a perfect finish, but with a little bit of wet sanding and buffing like we showed you here, and well, a great option I just learned with CSI, and much more cheaper, I'm sure. Well, we have a beautiful finish in black, and I can't wait to show you. Now, there's much more to come on this project Honda Civic. We'll be attacking our faded paint along the edges of the quarter panels, and well, I have a lot in store for this project. It's gonna be around for a long time, and I can't wait to share that with you guys. So until the next one, guys, this is Brian from Paint Society reminding you, don't overthink it. It's just paint. Let's check it out.